Picture yourself standing at the edge of a world where the ancient past doesn't just sit in a museum but breathes right next to the cutting edge of the future. Imagine a place where the morning air smells like mountain pine and incense, while the evening air tastes of neon lights and spicy street food. This is the continent that challenges everything you thought you knew about geography, culture, and your own capacity for wonder. Asia is not just a destination on a map. It is a sprawling, living masterpiece of human ambition and natural beauty. Today, we are embarking on a journey through the absolute wonders of this massive continent. We are going to look beyond the typical tourist traps and dive into the heart of what makes this part of the Earth so magnetic. From the highest peaks that scrape the heavens to the deepest tropical jungles hiding secrets of lost civilizations, we are uncovering the stories and the sights that define the Asian experience. We are talking about the kind of travel that changes you, the kind of moments that make you feel small in the best way possible. By the time we reach the end of this exploration, you will understand why this corner of the globe has captivated explorers for thousands of years, and why it continues to be the ultimate frontier for those seeking the extraordinary. India is one of those places that will break your brain in the best possible way. I mean that seriously. There is no country on earth quite like it. And today, I'm going to take you on a journey across this extraordinary land, from snow-capped mountains in the north to tropical beaches in the south, from ancient temples that are older than most civilizations to modern cities pulsing with energy and ambition. By the end of this video, you are either going to book a flight to India or you are going to sit there wondering why you have not already gone. Either way, your perspective on travel is about to change forever. Before we dive in, I want to set something straight. Most people think they know India. They have seen a Bollywood movie, maybe eaten at an Indian restaurant, maybe scrolled past a photo of the Taj Mahal on Instagram. But that surface-level impression does not even begin to scratch what this country actually is. India is a universe compressed into a single nation. It has 28 states, 8 union territories, over 2,000 ethnic groups, and more than 19,000 languages and dialects. Let me say that again. 19,000. This is not a country you visit once and understand. This is a country that invites you back 100 times and still has secrets to share. So let us start this journey and see what makes India one of the greatest wonders on the planet. We are beginning in the north, and there is really only one place to start: the Himalayas. Now, you have probably seen pictures of the Himalayas before, but nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepares you for standing in their presence. These are the highest mountains on Earth, and they stretch across the northern boundary of India like a colossal wall separating the subcontinent from the rest of Asia. When you stand in a place like Ladakh or Spiti Valley and look up at peaks that reach above 7,000 meters, something happens inside you. You feel small. Not in a bad way. In a humbling, soul-resetting kind of way. The air is thin, the silence is immense, and the landscape looks like it belongs on another planet. Rocky desert valleys painted in shades of brown and rust and gold, with rivers of glacial blue cutting through them. Buddhist monasteries perch on cliff edges as though they have been there since the beginning of time, and in some cases they nearly have. Hemis Monastery in Ladakh, for example, dates back to the 11th century. Monks still live and practice there, maintaining traditions that have been passed down for 1,000 years. If you want to experience a kind of peace that modern life almost never offers, the Indian Himalayas are where you find it. But let us come down from the mountains because India has so much more waiting for us. Let us talk about Rajasthan. If the Himalayas are India's spiritual crown, Rajasthan is its jeweled necklace. This is the land of kings and warriors, of massive fortresses and shimmering palaces, of deserts that glow orange under the setting sun. The state is located in northwestern India, and it is one of the most visually stunning places you will ever visit. Start with Jaipur, the capital, known as the Pink City because of the terracotta-colored buildings that line its old town. The Hawa Mahal, or Palace of Winds, is an iconic structure with its honeycomb facade of 953 small windows. It was designed so that the women of the royal court could observe the street below without being seen. Then there is the Amber Fort, a sprawling hilltop complex that blends Hindu and Mughal architectural styles in a way that will leave your jaw on the floor. Every surface is detailed, every corridor tells a story, and from the ramparts you can see for miles across the Aravalli Hills. Move west from Jaipur, and you reach Jodhpur, the blue city. And yes, it really is blue. The old town is a maze of narrow streets and buildings painted in brilliant shades of indigo and cobalt, all watched over by the imposing Mehrangarh Fort. This fortress is one of the largest in India, and when you stand on its walls looking down at the sea of blue houses below, you genuinely feel like you have stepped into a fantasy novel. Keep going west and you hit the Thar Desert, where you can ride camels across sand dunes as the sun drops below the horizon, and the sky turns into a canvas of pink and purple and deep orange. At night, the desert sky fills with more stars than you thought existed. It is the kind of experience that stays with you long after you leave. Now let us shift gears completely. We are heading south to Kerala, and the contrast could not be more dramatic. Kerala is lush, green, tropical, and serene. This is a state defined by water. Backwater canals weave through palm-lined villages, and the best way to experience them is on a traditional houseboat called a ketuvalam. You drift along these calm waterways, watching life unfold on the banks. Women washing clothes at the water's edge, children waving from bridges, fishermen casting nets in the golden afternoon light. It is slow, it is peaceful, and it is profoundly beautiful. Kerala is also home to some of the finest Ayurvedic wellness traditions in the world. Ayurveda, which literally translates to the science of life, originated in India thousands of years ago and is still practiced with deep expertise here. People travel from all over the globe to Kerala specifically for Ayurvedic treatments, and the experience of being cared for in this ancient system of medicine is something truly special. But we are not done with the south. Let us talk about Tamil Nadu, because this state contains some of the most extraordinary temples on the planet. The Meenakshi Amman Temple in Madurai is a masterpiece that defies description, but I will try. Imagine a structure covered, and I mean completely covered, in thousands of brightly painted sculptures of gods, goddesses, mythical creatures, and celestial beings. The gopurams, which are the towering gateway structures, rise up to nearly 50 meters and are so densely decorated that your eyes do not know where to look first. This temple is not just a place of worship. It is a living, breathing work of art that has been continuously used and maintained for centuries. The energy inside is extraordinary. Bells ringing, incense drifting through the air, devotees performing rituals with total concentration and devotion. You do not have to be religious to feel something powerful when you walk through those halls. And speaking of temples, we absolutely have to talk about Varanasi. This is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, and it sits on the banks of the sacred river Ganges in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Varanasi is the spiritual heart of Hinduism, and experiencing it is unlike anything else in travel. And the city is organized around a series of ghats, which are stone steps that lead down to the river. Every morning before dawn, pilgrims descend these ghats to bathe in the Ganges, believing that the water will purify their souls. Every evening, an elaborate ceremony called the Ganga Arti takes place at Dashashwameth Ghat, where priests perform synchronized rituals with fire, incense, and chanting, while thousands of people watch from the steps and from boats on the river. The atmosphere is electric. Candles float on the dark water, smoke curls into the night sky, and the sound of devotional music fills every corner of the ancient city. Varanasi confronts you with the full spectrum of human existence. Birth, death, joy, grief, devotion, and transcendence all exist side by side here, out in the open, with no attempt to hide any of it. It is raw, it is intense, and it will change the way you think about life. Now let us talk about something that every traveler to India anticipates, and rightfully so. The food. Indian cuisine is arguably the most complex and varied culinary tradition on earth. Every region, every state, every city has its own specialties, its own spice combinations, its own cooking techniques. In the north, you have rich, creamy curries like butter chicken and dal makhani, tandoori breads pulled hot from clay ovens, and street food like chaat that hits your taste buds with sweet, sour, spicy, and tangy all at once. In the south, the flavors shift entirely. Rice replaces wheat as the staple, and you encounter dishes like dosa, which is a crispy fermented crepe served with coconut chutney, and sambar, or appam, a bowl-shaped pancake made from rice batter and coconut milk. In Bengal, the cuisine revolves around fish and mustard, and the sweets are legendary. Rasgulla, sandesh, mishti doi. If you have a sweet tooth, Bengal is paradise. In Gujarat, the food is predominantly vegetarian and features an incredible balance of flavors that makes you forget you are not eating meat. And then there is the street food culture, which deserves its own entire video. From the Pani Puri stalls of Mumbai, to the kebab vendors of Lucknow, to the filter coffee shops of Chennai, eating your way through India is one of the great adventures a human being can have. Let us circle back to architecture, because I have not yet mentioned the single most famous structure in India, the Taj Mahal. You might think you know what it looks like from photographs, but I promise you, seeing it in person is a completely different experience. The Taj Mahal was built in the 17th century by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan as a mausoleum for his beloved wife Mumtaz Mahal, who died during childbirth. It took over 20 years and 20,000 workers to complete, and the result is what many people consider the most beautiful building ever created by human hands. The white marble changes color throughout the day. At dawn it appears pinkish, at noon it blazes white, and under moonlight it takes on a soft, ethereal glow. The symmetry is perfect. The inlaid gemstone work is breathtaking. The gardens that surround it are designed to represent paradise. Standing before it, you understand why it is considered one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. It is not just a monument to love. It is a monument to what human beings are capable of when they pour everything they have into creating something magnificent. But India's architectural wonders extend far beyond the Taj Mahal. Consider the cave temples of Ajanta and Ellora in Maharashtra. These are not buildings constructed from the ground up. These are entire temples carved directly into solid rock faces. The Ellora complex contains 34 caves spanning Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain traditions, and the crown jewel is the Kailasa temple, which is the largest monolithic rock excavation in the world. Engineers estimate that approximately 200,000 tons of rock were removed to create this single structure. 200,000 tons. Carved from the top down, without any of the modern tools or technology we take for granted today. When you stand inside it and look at the intricate carvings and massive columns and detailed sculptures, you are struck by a kind of awe that is hard to articulate. How did they do this? The answer is patience, skill, and an unwavering commitment to creating something that would last for eternity. And it has lasted. These caves are over 1,000 years old, and they remain some of the most impressive achievements in the history of human art and engineering. Let me take you somewhere unexpected now. The Northeast. This is the part of India that most international travelers overlook entirely, and honestly, that is a shame, because it is absolutely stunning. The 7 sister states of the Northeast, which include Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh, and Assam, are home to landscapes and cultures that feel worlds apart from the rest of India. Meghalaya, whose name means the abode of clouds, receives some of the highest rainfall on Earth and is covered in lush subtropical forests. Here you will find the famous living root bridges, which are exactly what they sound like. Bridges made from the roots of living trees, carefully guided and shaped over decades by the Khasi people until they form structures strong enough to carry 50 or more people at a time. These bridges are not ancient relics, they are ongoing acts of cooperation between human communities and the natural world, and some of them are over 500 years old and still growing. Nagaland, meanwhile, offers a window into tribal cultures that have maintained distinct identities for centuries. The Hornbill Festival, held every December, is a celebration of Naga heritage featuring traditional dances, music, crafts, and food from all the major tribes of the state. It is vibrant, it is authentic, and it is one of the most unique cultural experiences available anywhere in Asia. Speaking of culture, we need to talk about India's festivals because this country celebrates like no other. Diwali, the festival of lights, transforms the entire nation into a spectacle of illumination. Homes, streets, and public spaces are decorated with millions of oil lamps and candles, fireworks light up the sky, and families come together to share sweets and gifts. Holi, the festival of colors, is pure, joyful chaos. People take to the streets armed with colored powders and water guns, and within minutes everyone is drenched in every color imaginable. It does not matter who you are, where you come from, or what language you speak. During Holi, you are part of the celebration. Pongal in Tamil Nadu, Durga Puja in West Bengal, Onam in Kerala, Baisakhi in Punjab. The list goes on and on. India has festivals for every season, every region, every community, and participating in even one of them will give you a glimpse into the incredible warmth and generosity of the Indian people. And that brings me to something I think is the most underappreciated wonder of India, the people themselves. Indian hospitality is legendary, and once you experience it, you understand why. There is a concept in Indian culture captured by the Sanskrit phrase Atithi Devo Bhava, which translates roughly to the guest is equivalent to God. This is not just a nice saying, it is a deeply held value that you encounter constantly as a traveler. Strangers will invite you into their homes for tea. Shopkeepers will spend an hour telling you the history of their craft even if you do not buy anything. Families will go out of their way to help you find your destination, sometimes walking with you for blocks to make sure you do not get lost. The warmth is genuine, it is generous, and it creates connections that last far beyond the trip itself. Now, I want to address something honestly because I think it is important for anyone considering traveling to India. This country can be overwhelming. The sensory input is relentless, the traffic is chaotic, the noise is constant, the heat in summer can be brutal. There are moments where you will feel confused, exhausted, or out of your depth. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But here's what I have learned. That discomfort is part of the transformation. India does not let you stay in your comfort zone. It pushes you, challenges you, surprises you, and ultimately expands you. Every traveler I have ever spoken to who has been to India says the same thing. It changed them. Not in a small way, in a fundamental, lasting way. The things that once seemed important seem less so. The things you took for granted suddenly feel precious. India has this remarkable ability to strip away the superficial and show you what really matters. Let us visit one more place before we wrap up. Goa. This small state on India's western coast is famous for its beaches, and for good reason. Palm-fringed stretches of golden sand meet the warm waters of the Arabian Sea, and the vibe ranges from lively and party-oriented in the north to peaceful and secluded in the south. But Goa is more than just beaches. Its history as a Portuguese colony for over 400 years has left a fascinating cultural imprint. You will find Baroque churches, old Latin Quarter neighborhoods with colorful colonial-era houses, and a cuisine that blends Indian spices with Portuguese techniques in ways that are absolutely delicious. Goan fish curry, vindaloo, bibinka. The food alone is worth the visit. And then there are the sunsets. Goan sunsets over the Arabian Sea are the kind of thing that makes you stop whatever you are doing, put down your phone, and just watch. The sky turns molten, the water catches fire, and for a few minutes the entire world seems to hold its breath. India is also a place of extraordinary wildlife. The country is home to Bengal tigers, Asian elephants, one-horned rhinoceroses, snow leopards, Asiatic lions, and thousands of bird species. National parks like Ranthambore in Rajasthan, Jim Corbett in Uttarakhand, and Kaziranga in Assam offer opportunities to see these magnificent animals in their natural habitats. There is something incredibly moving about watching a wild tiger walk through the tall grass of an Indian forest, unhurried and powerful, completely at home in a landscape that has been its domain for millennia. Conservation efforts in India have achieved remarkable successes in recent decades, with tiger populations recovering significantly thanks to dedicated protection programs. The relationship between India and its wildlife is ancient and complex, reflected in mythology, art, and daily life across the country. Indonesia is not a country. It is a universe. 17,000 islands scattered across the equator, like someone took a handful of emeralds and just tossed them into the ocean. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you are going to understand why this place breaks people open. Why travelers arrive for 2 weeks and stay for 2 years. Why photographers weep. Why poets give up trying to find the right words. Because Indonesia does something to you that no other place on earth does. It rewires your brain. It recalibrates what you think beauty means. And today, we are going to go on a journey together through the most extraordinary corners of this impossibly diverse archipelago. But before we dive in, I need to be honest with you. I spent weeks putting this together, and I kept running into the same problem over and over again. How do you capture a country that has more than 700 living languages? A country where you can stand on a glacier in the morning and swim in a tropical sea by the afternoon? A country where ancient temples older than most European cathedrals sit quietly in jungles while modern megacities pulse with 20 million people just a few hundred miles away? The answer is you cannot capture all of it. Nobody can, but what you can do is show someone enough to make them fall in love. And that is exactly what we are going to try to do right now. Let us start where most people start when they think about Indonesia. Bali. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Bali is overdone. Bali is too touristy. Bali is just Instagram influencers drinking smoothie bowls. And yes, parts of Bali have become commercialized, that is undeniable. But here is what most people miss. Bali earned its reputation for a reason. Strip away the noise, get away from the crowds, in Kuta and Seminyak, and you will find something that hits you right in the chest. Head north to the rice terraces of Tagalalong and stand there at sunrise. Watch the light crawl across those carved green steps that Balinese farmers have been sculpting by hand for centuries. The Subek system, their traditional water management approach, is so ingenious and so culturally significant that UNESCO recognized it as a World Heritage Cultural Landscape. These are not just pretty fields, they are living proof that humans and nature can work together in perfect harmony for over 1,000 years. Then drive east to the Mother Temple, Pura Basaki, perched on the slopes of Mount Agung. This is the most important temple complex on the entire island, and it has been a place of worship for more than 1,000 years. When the clouds part and you can see Agung towering behind the temple spires, it does not feel like a tourist attraction. It feels like standing at the doorway between the human world and something much, much larger. But Bali is just the opening chapter. The real magic happens when you step beyond it. Fly east and you arrive in Komodo National Park. This is where things get wild, literally. These islands are home to the Komodo dragon, the largest living lizard on the planet. We are talking about creatures that can grow to 10 feet long and weigh over 150 pounds. They have been roaming these islands for millions of years, virtually unchanged. Standing 10 feet away from a Komodo dragon in the wild is one of those experiences that rewires your understanding of time. You realize you are looking at a living dinosaur, a predator that has survived every catastrophe this planet has thrown at it. And it is just sitting there, watching you with these ancient, knowing eyes. But Komodo is not just about the dragons. The waters surrounding these islands are some of the richest marine environments on Earth. The coral reefs here sit within the Coral Triangle, which is basically the Amazon rainforest of the ocean. More species of coral and reef fish exist in this region than anywhere else on the planet. Divers come from every corner of the globe to slip beneath these waters and find themselves surrounded by manta rays with wingspans wider than a car, sea turtles gliding through crystal blue channels, and coral gardens so vibrant they look like someone painted them. And then there are the pink beaches. Yes, pink. The sand on certain shores of Komodo gets its color from microscopic organisms called foraminifera, which have red shells that mix with the white sand to create this surreal, blush-colored coastline. You walk along the shore and it genuinely feels like you have stepped onto another planet. Now let us swing west, way west, to Sumatra. If Bali is Indonesia's spiritual heart and Komodo is its wild frontier, then Sumatra is its untamed soul. This is one of the largest islands on Earth, and it contains some of the oldest tropical rainforest anywhere. We are talking about jungle that has existed in some form for tens of millions of years. And hidden within that jungle are creatures found nowhere else: the Sumatran orangutan, the Sumatran tiger, the Sumatran rhinoceros, 3 critically endangered species clinging to survival in the misty highlands and dense lowland forests of this extraordinary island. Trekking through Gunung Lusir National Park in search of wild orangutans is one of those travel experiences that fundamentally changes you. You are walking through primary rainforest, the air thick with moisture and alive with the calls of hundreds of bird species, and then you look up and see an orange figure moving through the canopy 60 feet above your head. A wild orangutan, sharing 97% of your DNA, looking down at you with an intelligence and a gentleness that makes you question everything you thought you knew about what separates humans from the rest of the natural world. But Sumatra has another trick up its sleeve. Lake Toba. This is not just any lake, this is the largest volcanic lake on Earth, formed roughly 74,000 years ago by one of the most catastrophic eruptions in human history. The Toba super eruption was so massive that scientists believe it may have triggered a volcanic winter that lasted years and potentially reduced the global human population to just a few thousand individuals. Some researchers call it the closest humanity has ever come to extinction. And now, 74,000 years later, this place of unimaginable destruction has become one of the most serene and beautiful landscapes in all of Southeast Asia. The lake stretches over 1,000 square kilometers, surrounded by lush green hills and dotted with traditional Batak villages. The Batak people have lived here for centuries, and their culture is rich with music, art, and a hospitality that will make you feel like family within minutes of arriving. Sitting on the shore of Lake Toba at dusk, watching the water turn gold and then purple, knowing that you are sitting inside the crater of an event that nearly ended our species, is the kind of experience that makes everything else in life feel small. Let us keep moving. East now, to Sulawesi. This island is shaped like a bizarre orchid, 4 long peninsulas splaying out in different directions, and it is one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. Because of its unique geological history, Sulawesi sits right on the boundary of 2 major biogeographic regions, the Asian and Australian zones, separated by what scientists call Wallace's Line. This means the island has a truly extraordinary collection of endemic species, animals, and plants found nowhere else on Earth. The Toraja Highlands in the south are a place that will challenge everything you think you know about death. The Torajan people have a relationship with their deceased loved ones that is completely unlike anything in Western culture. When a family member dies, they are not immediately buried. Instead, the body is preserved and kept in the family home, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, sometimes for years. They are spoken to, offered food, and treated as though they are simply ill. When the family has gathered enough resources, an elaborate funeral ceremony takes place, often involving the sacrifice of water buffalo, traditional dances, and celebrations that can last for days. And even after burial in cliffside graves or hanging coffins, the Torajans hold a ceremony called Manene every few years, where they exhume their relatives, clean and dress them in fresh clothes, and parade them through the village. It sounds shocking when you first hear about it, but when you witness it, when you see the love and tenderness with which families care for their ancestors, it stops being strange and starts being beautiful. It forces you to confront your own assumptions about grief, about memory, about what it means to truly honor someone you have lost. Now let us talk about a place that very few travelers ever reach, but those who do never forget it. Raja Ampat. These are a group of islands off the northwest tip of the Bird's Head Peninsula in West Papua, and they contain what many marine biologists consider the single most biodiverse marine ecosystem on the planet. Over 1,500 species of fish, over 500 species of coral, numbers that make scientists shake their heads in disbelief. Diving in Raja Ampat is not like diving anywhere else. The sheer density of life is overwhelming. You descend into water so clear it feels like flying, and suddenly you are surrounded by schools of fish so thick they block out the sun. Pygmy seahorses no bigger than your thumbnail cling to sea fans. Wobbegong sharks lie camouflaged on the sandy bottom. Manta rays cruise overhead like silent aircraft carriers. And the coral is like nothing you have ever seen. Enormous table corals, delicate branching formations, soft corals swaying in the current like underwater gardens from a dream. But what makes Raja Ampat truly special is not just what is under the water. It is what is above it. The islands themselves are ancient limestone karst formations, mushroom-shaped islets covered in dense jungle, rising from turquoise lagoons. Kayaking through these formations at sunset, with the sky burning orange, and the only sound being the gentle splash of your paddle and the distant call of a bird of paradise, is the kind of moment that burns itself permanently into your memory. Speaking of birds of paradise, West Papua is where most of the world's bird of paradise species are found. These birds are, without exaggeration, some of the most visually spectacular creatures evolution has ever produced. Males perform elaborate courtship dances that involve transforming their plumage into shapes that do not even look real. One species fans out its feathers into what looks like a glowing blue satellite dish. Another hangs upside down from a branch and turns itself into a bouncing black oval with an electric blue chest plate. Scientists have studied these dances for decades and still find new details that surprise them. Trekking into the highland forests of Papua to watch a bird of paradise display at dawn is one of the rarest and most extraordinary wildlife experiences available anywhere on Earth. It requires patience, endurance, and a willingness to sit in the dark at 4 a.m. waiting for a single bird to appear. But when it does, when that bird transforms itself into something that looks like it was designed by an artist from another dimension, every second of waiting becomes worth it. Let us shift gears now and talk about something that ties all of these places together. The people. Indonesia is the 4th most populous country on Earth, home to over 270 million people spread across those 17,000 islands. And the cultural diversity is staggering. More than 300 distinct ethnic groups, more than 700 languages. The national motto, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, means unity in diversity, and it is not just a slogan, it is the daily reality of life in this country. In Java, you will find the ancient Buddhist monument of Borobudur, the largest Buddhist temple in the world, built in the 9th century and containing over 2,000 relief panels and 500 Buddhist statues. Walking through Borobudur at sunrise as mist rises from the surrounding jungle and the volcanic peaks of central Java glow pink on the horizon is one of those bucket list moments that actually exceeds the hype. The temple was buried under volcanic ash and jungle for centuries before being rediscovered in the early 19th century, and its restoration is one of the great archaeological achievements of the modern era. Just 40 kilometers away sits Prambanan, a Hindu temple compound from roughly the same era with towering spires dedicated to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. The fact that these two magnificent monuments, one Buddhist and one Hindu, exist so close together and were built during overlapping periods tells you something profound about the tolerance and cultural richness that has defined Java for over a millennium. And then there is the food. Indonesian cuisine is one of the most underrated in the world, and I will fight anyone who disagrees. Rendang, the slow-cooked coconut and spice-braised beef that originated with the Minangkabau people of West Sumatra, has been voted the most delicious food in the world in multiple international surveys. And that is just the beginning. Nasi goreng, the ubiquitous fried rice that varies from island to island and family to family. Satay, skewered and grilled meat served with peanut sauce that ranges from sweet to fiery depending on where you are. Bakso, the comforting meatball soup sold by street vendors from wheeled carts on practically every corner of every city. Gado-gado, the vegetable salad drenched in a peanut dressing so good it could make you forget that you are eating something healthy. Each island, each region, each city has its own specialties, its own spice combinations, its own cooking techniques passed down through generations. Eating your way through Indonesia is not just a culinary experience. It is a cultural education. Now I want to take you to one more place. A place that represents everything I love about this country. The Banda Islands. These tiny volcanic islands in the far eastern reaches of the archipelago were once the most valuable pieces of real estate on the entire planet. For centuries, they were the world's only source of nutmeg, a spice that was worth more than gold in medieval Europe. Colonial powers fought brutal wars over these islands. The Dutch traded Manhattan to the British in exchange for one of the Banda Islands, a deal that seems absurd today but made perfect economic sense in the 17th century when nutmeg was one of the most precious commodities on Earth. Today, the Banda Islands are quiet, peaceful, and almost completely off the tourist radar. You can walk through crumbling Dutch colonial forts, swim in crystalline waters teeming with marine life, and buy fresh nutmeg directly from farmers who tend the same groves that once drove European empires to war. The contrast between the violent history and the present-day tranquility is haunting and beautiful in equal measure. And I think that contrast captures something essential about Indonesia. This is a country of layers. Layers of history, layers of culture, layers of geology, layers of meaning. Every island tells a different story. Every community preserves a different tradition. Every landscape reveals a different face of this endlessly complex and endlessly fascinating nation. Indonesia also sits along the Pacific Ring of Fire, which gives it one of the most dramatic volcanic landscapes on the planet. There are roughly 130 active volcanoes here, more than any other country. Mount Bromo in East Java is perhaps the most iconic, a smoking crater rising from a vast sea of volcanic sand, surrounded by towering caldera walls. Watching the sunrise from the rim of Bromo, with clouds pouring over the caldera edge and the cone belching white smoke against a canvas of orange and pink sky, is genuinely one of the most photographed moments in all of Asia, and it deserves every bit of that attention. Then there is Kawah Ijen, also in East Java, where miners descend into a volcanic crater every night to harvest sulfur by hand. The crater contains the world's largest acidic lake, a surreal turquoise pool of liquid that looks beautiful but is deadly. At night, the sulfuric gases ignite into electric blue flames that cascade down the crater walls, creating one of the most otherworldly natural spectacles on the planet. The miners who work here carry loads of up to 80 kilograms of sulfur on their backs, climbing out of the crater in the dark, illuminated by the blue fire. Their working conditions are brutal, their pay is minimal, and their life expectancy is tragically shortened by the toxic fumes they breathe every night. It is simultaneously one of the most beautiful and one of the most heartbreaking things you will ever witness, and it serves as a powerful reminder that behind every stunning landscape, there are human stories that deserve to be told. Indonesia challenges you. It does not let you be a passive observer. It demands that you engage, that you feel, that you question your assumptions, and expand your understanding of what the world can be. Whether you are floating in a crystal lagoon in Raja Ampat, standing in the shadow of an ancient temple in Java, sharing a meal with a Batak family on the shores of Lake Toba, or watching a bird of paradise dance in a Papuan forest at dawn, this country has an uncanny ability to make you feel simultaneously insignificant and deeply, profoundly alive. And here is what I think is the real wonder of Indonesia. It is not any single place. It is not the temples or the volcanoes or the reefs or the dragons or the rice terraces. As extraordinary as all of those things are, the real wonder is the sheer improbability of it all. That one country, one nation could contain so much diversity, so much beauty, so much history, so much life, all woven together into something that somehow works. 17,000 islands, hundreds of cultures, hundreds of languages, millions of stories, all bound together under that one beautiful motto, unity in diversity. Right now, somewhere in Japan, a bullet train is silently cutting through a valley at nearly 200 miles per hour, and outside that window there is a view so stunning that people fly halfway around the world just to press their face against the glass. But here's the thing. That train ride is maybe the 5th most incredible experience you can have in a single day in this country. Japan is not just a destination. It is a sensory overload wrapped in thousands of years of tradition, served alongside some of the best food on the planet, and presented with a level of precision and care that will genuinely make you rethink how every other country operates. I've spent an unreasonable amount of time researching, planning, and dreaming about this place. And today, I want to take you on a journey through the wonders of Japan. Not the generic top 10 list you have seen 100 times. I want to show you why Japan hits different. Why people who visit once become obsessed. Why travelers who have been everywhere consistently rank it as the single greatest country they have ever experienced. And by the end of this video, I think you will understand exactly why. Let us start with the moment you arrive, because Japan begins impressing you before you even leave the airport. You land at Narita or Haneda, and immediately something feels different. The air inside the terminal is clean in a way that seems intentional. The floors shine, every sign is perfectly placed, and there are no scuff marks on the walls. And then you notice the people. Airport staff bow as you pass. Directions are given with both hands in a gesture of respect. Your luggage appears on the carousel wrapped and handled as if someone actually cared about your belongings. This is not performance, this is just how things work here. You step onto the train that connects the airport to central Tokyo, and that is where the first real wave hits you. The train is on time, not roughly on time, not a few minutes late with an apology. It arrives at the exact second it was scheduled to arrive. Japan's rail system is famous for this, and the numbers are almost absurd. The average delay across the entire Shinkansen network in a given year is measured in seconds. Not minutes, seconds. If a train is more than a minute late, it is considered a significant disruption, and the rail company will publicly apologize. There was a case where a train departed 20 seconds early and the company issued a formal apology to the public. 20 seconds. Let that sink in for a moment, and then think about the last time you waited 45 minutes for a bus that never showed up. But the trains are more than just punctual. The Shinkansen, the bullet train, is one of the great engineering achievements of the modern world. It launched in 1964, just in time for the Tokyo Olympics, and it fundamentally changed how humans thought about ground transportation. These trains cruise at speeds that would terrify you in a car, but inside the cabin you barely feel the motion. You could balance a coin on the armrest and it would not fall. The ride is that smooth. And the network connects the major cities so efficiently that flying domestically within Japan often makes less sense than just taking the train. Now let me take you into Tokyo, because this city deserves its own conversation. Tokyo is the largest metropolitan area on Earth. Nearly 38 million people live and work within its sprawl, and somehow it functions. Not just functions, it thrives, it pulses, it overwhelms you with possibility. Every neighborhood is its own universe. Shibuya is controlled chaos with its famous scramble crossing, where up to 3,000 people cross the intersection at once, moving in every direction, and somehow nobody collides. Shinjuku is neon and noise and nightlife stacked on top of itself in layers that go both up into the skyscrapers and down into underground shopping complexes that stretch for miles. Akihabara is electric town where anime culture and technology merge into a fever dream of color and sound. Harajuku is where fashion becomes performance art and young people dress in styles so creative and bold that you will stand on the sidewalk with your mouth open. But here is what catches most visitors off guard. Despite all of this energy, Tokyo is also incredibly peaceful. Walk 10 minutes from any major hub and you will find yourself on a quiet residential street lined with small houses and potted plants where an elderly woman is sweeping her doorstep and a cat is sleeping in a patch of sunlight. This contrast is one of Tokyo's greatest gifts. It offers you everything and then it gives you space to breathe. And then there are the temples. In the middle of this ultra-modern megacity, you will stumble upon Meiji Shrine, surrounded by a forest of 100,000 trees that were donated from across Japan when the shrine was built over a century ago. You walk through the massive torii gate, and the noise of the city simply vanishes. The air changes, the light changes, you are suddenly in a sacred space that feels ancient and timeless, even though millions of people visit every year. That ability to hold the modern and the traditional in perfect balance is something Japan does better than anywhere else on Earth. Let us talk about Kyoto, because if Tokyo is Japan's beating heart, then Kyoto is its soul. This was the imperial capital for over 1,000 years, and it shows. There are more than 2,000 temples and shrines in Kyoto. 2,000. You could visit a different one every day for over 5 years and still not see them all. But let me highlight a few that will genuinely change the way you see the world. Fushimi Inari is probably the one you have seen in photographs. Thousands of bright vermilion torii gates line a path that winds up the mountainside, creating a tunnel of color that seems to stretch on forever. Most tourists walk the first section, take their photos, and turn around. But if you keep going, if you commit to the full hike, which takes about 2 to 3 hours, you will find yourself alone on the mountain, surrounded by nothing but forest, and those endless gates, and the sound of your own footsteps. It becomes meditative. It becomes spiritual, even if you did not come looking for that. Kinkakuji, the golden pavilion, sits at the edge of a mirror pond, and on a still day, the reflection is so perfect that you cannot tell which is real, the building or its image in the water. The top 2 stories are covered entirely in gold leaf, and it glows in the afternoon sun in a way that photographs never fully capture. There is a reason this is one of the most visited sites in all of Japan. It stops you in your tracks. And then there is the bamboo grove in Arashiyama, and you walk into this forest and the bamboo towers above you, swaying gently, creating a sound that the Japanese describe as one of the 100 soundscapes of Japan that should be preserved. The light filters through in green shafts, and the whole world narrows down to this single path through these impossibly tall stalks. It is one of those rare places where every single person, regardless of where they come from or what they believe, pauses and feels something. Now, I need to talk about the food, because honestly, this might be the strongest argument for booking a flight tomorrow. Japanese cuisine is not just good, it is arguably the most refined food culture on the planet. Tokyo alone has more Michelin-starred restaurants than any other city in the world. More than Paris. More than New York. And the incredible thing is that some of the best meals you will ever eat in Japan will not come from fancy restaurants. They will come from tiny ramen shops with 8 seats and a single chef who has spent 30 years perfecting one dish. They will come from street vendors selling takoyaki, those crispy golden octopus balls that crack open to reveal a molten center that burns your mouth, and you do not care because the flavor is transcendent. They will come from convenience stores, and yes, I am serious. Japanese convenience stores sell food that would qualify as a respectable meal in most countries. Onigiri, rice balls with perfectly seasoned fillings. Egg sandwiches on milk bread that is so soft it feels like a cloud. Fresh sushi that has no business being that good for $3. Sushi in Japan is a completely different experience from what most of the world calls sushi. At a proper sushi counter, the chef selects each piece of fish based on what arrived that morning. The rice is seasoned and shaped by hand at a specific temperature. The fish is placed on top, and you are expected to eat it within seconds before the temperature changes, because the interplay between the warm rice and the cool fish is part of the design. Every single piece is a tiny masterpiece of flavor, texture, and intention. It is not a meal. It is a performance. And then there is ramen. Every region of Japan has its own style. Tonkotsu from Fukuoka with its rich, creamy pork bone broth that has been simmered for hours until it turns white and thick. Miso ramen from Sapporo Hardy, and warming perfect for cold Hokkaido winters. Shoyu ramen from Tokyo, clean and elegant with a soy sauce base that highlights rather than hides the ingredients. People will travel across the country to visit a specific ramen shop because the broth, the noodles, the toppings, they all tell a story of place and tradition and obsessive craft. Let me shift gears and take you somewhere that feels like a different planet. Hokkaido is Japan's northernmost main island, and it is a world apart from the dense urban energy of Tokyo or the cultural richness of Kyoto. Hokkaido is vast, open, and wild. In winter, it receives some of the deepest, most consistent powder snow on Earth, and skiers and snowboarders from around the world make the pilgrimage to Niseko and Furano to experience what locals simply call Japao. The snow is so light, so dry, so impossibly fluffy that it redefines what you thought snow could be. But Hokkaido is not just winter. In summer, the lavender fields of Furano bloom in waves of purple that roll across the hillsides like something from a painting. The seafood in Hokkaido is legendary. Hairy crab sea urchin scallops the size of your fist, pulled from water so cold and clean that the flavor is intensely pure. Sapporo, the capital of Hokkaido, is a laid-back city with wide streets, excellent beer, and a food scene that rivals anything in mainland Japan. Now let us go south, way south. Okinawa is Japan's tropical paradise, a chain of islands that stretches toward Taiwan with turquoise water, white sand beaches, and coral reefs teeming with life. But Okinawa is more than just beautiful. It is one of the world's blue zones, a place where people routinely live past 100. Scientists have studied the Okinawan lifestyle for decades trying to understand why. The answers seem to involve a combination of diet rich in vegetables, tofu, and fish, a strong sense of community, a concept called ikigai, which roughly translates to a reason for getting up in the morning, and a cultural attitude toward aging that is fundamentally different from the Western world. Okinawa also has its own distinct culture, separate from mainland Japan, with unique music, dance, food, and traditions that reflect centuries of independent history as the Ryukyu Kingdom. I want to take you to one more place that most travel videos skip entirely. The Japanese Alps. Yes, Japan has Alps and they are spectacular. The Tateyama-Kurobe Alpine Route takes you through mountains that in spring have walls of snow reaching 60 feet high on either side of the road. Kamakochi is a highland valley so pristine that the Japanese government has restricted vehicle access to protect it. You hike along crystal-clear rivers with the peaks of the northern Alps rising above you, and the silence is almost overwhelming after the intensity of the cities. And scattered through these mountains are onsen towns. An onsen is a natural hot spring bath, and bathing culture in Japan is ancient and deeply important. You soak in mineral-rich water heated by volcanic activity, often outdoors, surrounded by snow-capped mountains, or autumn leaves, or the steam rising into cold mountain air. It is not just relaxation, it is ritual. It is a way of connecting to nature, to your own body, to the simple pleasure of being warm and still and present. Many visitors say that their onsen experience was the single most peaceful moment of their entire trip. Let me talk about something that threads through everything I have described so far. It is a concept that does not translate perfectly into English, but the Japanese word is omoten nashi. It means hospitality, but that does not capture it fully. Omotenashi is anticipating someone's needs before they even know they have them. It is the taxi driver who opens the door for you with a white-gloved hand. It is the hotel that remembers you mentioned you like green tea and has a cup waiting in your room. It is the restaurant that wraps your leftovers in origami. It is the culture of treating every interaction with care and respect, not because you are paying for it, but because that is what it means to serve another person. Once you experience omotenashi, you will feel its absence everywhere else you go for the rest of your life. This brings me to something I find endlessly fascinating about Japan. The concept of wabi-sabi. Where Western culture tends to chase perfection and permanence, Japan has a philosophical tradition that finds beauty in imperfection and impermanence. A cracked bowl repaired with gold. A weathered wooden gate. The falling cherry blossoms that are beautiful precisely because they are fleeting. This philosophy shows up everywhere once you start looking for it. In the deliberate asymmetry of a traditional garden, in the rough texture of a handmade teacup, in the acceptance that seasons change and things end, and that is not sad. That is what makes them precious. Speaking of cherry blossoms, I would be doing you a disservice if I did not talk about Hanami. Every spring, usually late March through mid-April, the cherry trees across Japan burst into bloom and the entire country celebrates. People gather under the trees with blankets and food and drinks, and they simply sit together and watch the petals fall. The forecast for cherry blossom season is a national event. It is broadcast on the news with maps tracking the bloom front as it moves from south to north across the islands. Parks fill up, rivers become lined with pink, entire mountainsides transform, and then within about a week the petals fall, and it is over. That brevity, that fleeting perfect beauty is the entire point. It is wabi-sabi in its purest form. Autumn in Japan is equally stunning. The momiji, the changing maple leaves, turn the temples of Kyoto and the mountains of Nikko into landscapes of red, orange, and gold that rival any autumn display anywhere in the world. Many temples illuminate the trees at night, and the reflection of fiery leaves in temple ponds creates scenes so beautiful they seem digitally enhanced. They are not, that is just Japan. I want to address something practical for a moment because I know many people assume Japan is prohibitively expensive. The truth might surprise you. While luxury experiences certainly exist and are world-class, Japan can be remarkably affordable. Budget hotels are clean and efficient. Train passes offer incredible value for tourists. Street food and casual dining are inexpensive and outstanding. You can have one of the best food days of your life in Japan for $30 or $40. The 100 yen shops are treasure troves of useful and quirky items. And the fact that Japan is one of the safest countries in the world means you are unlikely to encounter the petty theft and scams that plague tourists in many other popular destinations. People leave their bags unattended at restaurants. Children ride the subway alone. Wallets that are lost are returned with the cash still inside. The safety and cleanliness of Japan deserve special attention. The streets are immaculate, and here is the paradox: there are almost no public trash cans. People carry their garbage with them until they find a proper place to dispose of it. This is not enforced by fines or cameras. It is simply how people behave. The respect for shared space is so deeply ingrained that littering is essentially unthinkable. Crime rates are extraordinarily low. The cultural emphasis on harmony, on not being a burden on others, on contributing to the collective good, creates an environment that feels remarkably peaceful and secure. Imagine standing on a cliff edge where the earth seems to drop into a bottomless void of mist and emerald green forests. This is not a dream or a scene from a fantasy movie. This is the reality of standing at world's end in the heart of Sri Lanka. Most people think of this island as just a small teardrop off the coast of India, but that is the first mistake travelers make. Sri Lanka is not a side note to a larger continent. It is a world of its own, a place where ancient kings built fortresses in the clouds, where leopards roam through golden shrublands, and where the smell of cinnamon and sea salt hangs heavy in the humid air. If you have been looking for a destination that offers the perfect balance of raw adventure and soul-quieting peace, then you have arrived at exactly the right place. Today, we are going on a journey through the wonders of Sri Lanka, exploring the hidden corners and the famous landmarks that make this island one of the most captivating places on our planet. To understand Sri Lanka, you have to start with its heartbeat, which is found in the cultural triangle. This is the northern central part of the island where history feels like it is breathing down your neck. The most iconic of all these sites is undoubtedly Sigiriya. Imagine a massive monolith of orange-hued rock rising 600 feet straight out of the flat jungle plains. This is the Lion Rock. To the local people, it is much more than a geological anomaly. It was once the center of a short-lived but spectacular kingdom. King Kashyapa, a man driven by ambition and perhaps a bit of paranoia, chose this rock as his capital in the 5th century. As you start the climb, you quickly realize this was no ordinary palace. The path is guarded by 2 massive stone lion paws, all that remains of a gargantuan statue that once greeted visitors. Scaling the side of the rock involves narrow metal staircases that wrap around the sheer face of the stone, but every step is worth the effort. Along the way, you find frescoes of heavenly maidens painted directly onto the rock face, their colors still vibrant after more than 1,500 years. When you finally reach the summit, the wind whips around you, and you are standing on the ruins of a palace that feels like it was built in the heavens. From up here, you can see the symmetrical gardens and water moats laid out below, showing a level of urban planning that was centuries ahead of its time. But Sigiriya is just the beginning of the story. Just a short drive away lies Dambulla, a site that trades the heights of the air for the depths of the earth. The cave temple complex at Dambulla is a series of 5 caverns carved into a massive overhanging rock. Inside, you are met with an overwhelming display of religious devotion. Thousands of square feet of ceiling are covered in intricate murals depicting the life of the Buddha, while over 150 statues sit in silent meditation. The air inside is cool and smells of burning incense and lotus flowers left as offerings. It is a place that demands silence and reflection. You can feel the weight of centuries of prayer in these cool, dark spaces. It is a stark contrast to the heat and noise of the modern world outside. As we move away from the ancient ruins, the landscape begins to shift. Sri Lanka is an island of dramatic transitions. You can drive for 3 hours and feel like you have crossed into an entirely different country. We leave the dry plains behind and start the long, winding ascent into the central highlands, and this is tea country. As the elevation rises, the temperature drops, and the humidity of the coast is replaced by a crisp, invigorating mountain air. The hillsides here are carpeted in an endless expanse of bright green tea bushes, meticulously pruned to look like a velvet blanket stretched over the mountains. This is where the world's finest Ceylon tea is born. In the town of Nuwara Eliya, which the British once called Little England, the architecture shifts to red brick cottages and gabled roofs. The mist often rolls in during the late afternoon, swallowing the valleys and making the whole place feel like a scene from a Victorian novel. One of the most essential experiences in this region is the train ride from Kandy to Ella. It is frequently cited as the most beautiful train journey in the world, and honestly, the titles do not do it justice. You sit in an open doorway of a bright blue or red vintage carriage, your legs dangling over the edge as the train chugs slowly along the mountain ridges. You pass through tunnels over high stone bridges and right through the middle of tea plantations where workers in colorful saris are picking the young leaves. The rhythm of the tracks and the cool wind on your face create a sense of freedom that is hard to find anywhere else. The highlight of this journey is crossing the Nine-Arch Bridge near Ella. This massive stone structure, built without a single piece of steel, rises out of a lush green gorge. Standing on the bridge while the train passes by feels like watching history in motion. Ella itself is a backpacker's paradise, a small town nestled in a gap in the mountains that offers some of the best hiking on the island. A sunrise hike to the top of Little Adams Peak gives you a panoramic view of the Ella Gap, where the land falls away to reveal the distant southern plains shimmering in the morning light. Speaking of the plains, we cannot talk about Sri Lanka without mentioning its incredible wildlife. For an island of its size, the biodiversity here is staggering. In the southeast lies Yala National Park, a land of thorny scrub, brackish lagoons, and massive rock outcrops. Yala is famous for having the highest density of leopards in the world. Tracking these elusive big cats is a game of patience and luck. You set out before dawn in an open-top jeep, the cool morning air biting at your skin. As the sun rises, the bush comes alive. You might see a herd of wild elephants crossing the road, their skin caked in red mud, or a spotted deer freezing in the tall grass. And then, if the stars align, you spot a flick of a tail or the amber glow of eyes in the shadows. Seeing a leopard lounging on a granite boulder or stalking through the undergrowth is a primal experience that leaves you breathless. But Yala is just one of many parks. If you prefer elephants, Minaria National Park in the north is the place to be. During the dry season, hundreds of elephants migrate to the receding shores of an ancient reservoir. This event, known as The Gathering, is one of the greatest wildlife spectacles in Asia. Watching matriarchs lead their calves to the water's edge while bulls rumble in the distance is a powerful reminder of the majesty of the natural world. The journey through Sri Lanka eventually leads everyone back to the coast, and it is here that the island shows its most relaxing face. The southern coastline is a string of golden sand beaches, turquoise waters, and swaying palm trees. Marissa is the go-to spot for those who want to combine beach time with whale watching. Sri Lanka is one of the few places on Earth where you can see the blue whale, the largest animal to ever live, just a short boat ride from the shore. Seeing the massive fluke of a blue whale break the surface of the Indian Ocean is a humbling moment that puts our own existence into perspective. Further west along the coast lies the historic city of Galle. This is a place where South Asian culture meets colonial Europe. The Galle Fort, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was first built by the Portuguese and then heavily fortified by the Dutch in the 17th century. Today, it is a living monument. You can walk along the massive granite ramparts as the waves of the Indian Ocean crash against the base. Inside the fort, the narrow streets are lined with boutiques, cafes, and old colonial villas. It is a place of quiet charm where you can watch a game of cricket being played on the grass or see the sunset from the iconic white lighthouse. But the beauty of Sri Lanka is not just in its landscapes or its history, it is in the sensory details of everyday life. It is the taste of a spicy kotu roti being chopped on a flat grill by a street-side vendor, the sound of the rhythmic clanging echoing through the night. It is the sight of stilt fishermen in Weligama perched precariously on wooden poles over the breaking surf, waiting for a catch using techniques passed down through generations. It is the smell of fresh coconut milk and roasted spices that fills every household at mealtime. The food in Sri Lanka is a journey in itself. From the fiery dal curries to the sweet and tangy sini sambal, every meal is an explosion of flavor. You cannot leave without trying a hopper, a bowl-shaped pancake made from fermented rice flour and coconut milk, often served with a fried egg in the center. It is simple, humble, and absolutely delicious. Spirituality also plays a massive role in the Sri Lankan experience. You see it in the white-clad pilgrims carrying lotus flowers to the Temple of the Tooth in Kandy, where a sacred relic of the Buddha is kept. You see it in the colorful Hindu Kovils of the north with their towering gopurams covered in thousands of painted deities. And you see it in the quiet mountain shrines where a single oil lamp flickers in the breeze. There is a deep-seated sense of kindness and hospitality in the Sri Lankan people. Despite the challenges the country has faced, from colonial rule to civil war and economic shifts, the warmth of the locals remains unshaken. A smile is the universal currency here, and you will find that strangers are always willing to help or share a story over a cup of tea. As we look toward the northern part of the island, we find a region that is only recently becoming a staple for travelers. Jaffna, the cultural heart of the Tamil people, feels worlds away from the southern beaches. The landscape here is flatter, dominated by palmyra palms and shallow lagoons. The light has a different quality, and the air is dry. Exploring the Jaffna Fort or visiting the Nallur Kandaswamy Kovil with its vibrant murals and golden structures provides a different perspective on the island's complex identity. The islands off the coast of Jaffna, like Delft Island, offer a rugged beauty where wild ponies roam free and the fences are made of coral stone. It is a reminder that Sri Lanka is a mosaic of different cultures, languages, and traditions, all held together by the surrounding sea. There is a certain magic in the way Sri Lanka forces you to slow down. You can't rush through these winding mountain roads or hurry a local chef who is grinding spices by hand. The island operates on its own time. It encourages you to linger over a sunset, to watch the way the light changes the color of the tea leaves, and to listen to the sounds of the jungle at night. Whether you are seeking the adrenaline of surfing the breaks at Arugam Bay on the east coast, the intellectual stimulation of exploring ancient ruins, or the simple joy of a tropical paradise, Sri Lanka delivers in a way that feels personal. It is not a place that you just visit, it is a place that you feel. One of the most profound experiences you can have is the pilgrimage up Adam's Peak, or Sri Pada. This holy mountain is sacred to 4 major religions. At the summit sits a footprint carved in stone, believed by Buddhists to be that of the Buddha, by Hindus to be Shiva's, and by Christians and Muslims to be Adam's. The climb is usually done at night, a grueling ascent of thousands of stone steps lit by a string of lights that looks like a stairway to heaven from a distance. You climb alongside elderly grandmothers and young children, all driven by faith or the desire to see the dawn. When you reach the top, shivering in the pre-dawn chill, the sun begins to rise, casting a perfect triangular shadow of the mountain across the clouds. In that moment, as the temple bells ring and the chanting begins, the divisions of the world seem to melt away. Sri Lanka is a land of contrasts. It is a place where you can find ultimate luxury in a boutique villa overlooking a private cove, or raw authenticity in a crowded third-class train carriage. It is an island that has been shaped by the currents of the Indian Ocean and the influence of countless travelers who have landed on its shores over the millennia. From the ancient seafaring traders who came for cinnamon and gems to the modern travelers who come for the soul of the island, Sri Lanka continues to enchant everyone who steps onto its soil. As our journey through this island comes to a close, it is clear that the true wonder of Sri Lanka isn't just one destination or one monument. It is the feeling of the island itself, a place that manages to be both tiny and infinite at the very same time. Moving deeper into the heart of the island, we encounter the spiritual capital, Kandy. This city is draped around a central lake, tucked into a valley surrounded by some of the most lush hills you will ever see. Kandy is a place of deep importance for the Sinhalese people. It was the last independent kingdom to fall to the British, and it holds its traditions with a fierce pride. The Temple of the Sacred Tooth relic is the focal point here. Every day, thousands of people visit to offer prayers to the tooth of the Buddha, which is housed in a golden casket. The drumming ceremonies that take place during the dawn and dusk offerings are hypnotic. The sound of the drums echoes through the temple halls, creating an atmosphere that is electric with devotion. Just outside the city, the Paradanaya Royal Botanical Gardens offer a more tranquil experience. Walking under the canopy of giant Java fig trees or through the orchid house, you get a sense of the incredible fertility of this land. Everything grows here with an intensity that is almost overwhelming. From Kandy, the road stretches out toward the eastern coast, which offers a completely different vibe compared to the south. If the south is about golden sun and social hubs, the east is about raw, rugged beauty and a slower pace of life. Arugam Bay is the crown jewel of the East Coast. It is a world-renowned surf spot where the waves have a long, consistent break that attracts professionals and beginners alike. The town is a laid-back strip of guest houses and cafes where the main mode of transportation is a bicycle. Just a short hop from the surf, you find Kumana National Park, a birdwatcher's paradise. The lagoons here are filled with storks, pelicans, and flamingos, and the silence is only broken by the calls of the wild. It is one of the best places to see the island as it has been for thousands of years, untouched and wild. Further up the east coast is Trincomalee, a beautiful natural harbor city with a history that spans millennia. The Koneswaram Temple sits on the edge of a sheer cliff known as Lover's Leap, overlooking the deep blue waters of the harbor. This Hindu temple is a riot of color, with intricate statues of gods and goddesses looking out over the sea. The waters around Trincomalee are also famous for whale and dolphin watching, and the nearby Nillaveli beach offers some of the whitest sand and clearest water on the island. It is the perfect place to go snorkeling at Pigeon Island, where the coral reefs are teeming with tropical fish and harmless blacktip reef sharks. It feels like a hidden world away from the more crowded tourist paths. Returning to the inland wonders, we have to talk about the cultural richness of the ancient cities of Anurad, Hapura, and Polonnaruwa. These are the places where the foundations of Sri Lankan civilization were laid. Anuradhapura was the first capital, a sprawling complex of massive stupas that once rivaled the pyramids of Giza in size. These giant white domes, known as Dagobas, contain sacred relics and are surrounded by the ruins of immense monasteries and palaces. Walking through these ruins, you see the intricate moonstones, which are semicircular stone slabs carved with animals and symbols representing the journey of life. Polonnaruwa, the second capital, offers a more compact look at medieval Sri Lanka. The highlight here is the Galvihara, a collection of 4 massive Buddha statues carved out of a single piece of granite. The reclining Buddha, measuring 14 meters long, has a facial expression of such profound peace that it is hard not to be moved by it. The engineering of the massive reservoirs, or tanks, built by the kings to manage water for rice cultivation is still in use today, proving that the ancient dwellers of this island were masters of their environment. Thailand is one of those places that ruins you for everywhere else. Once you have been there, once you have tasted the food, seen the temples, felt the warmth of the people, something shifts inside you, and you spend the rest of your life trying to get back. Today, I want to take you on a journey through one of the most extraordinary countries on Earth. We are going to explore hidden islands that look like they were painted by hand. We are going to walk through ancient ruins that most tourists never find. We are going to eat street food that costs less than $1, but delivers flavors so complex that Michelin star chefs fly halfway around the world just to study them. And by the end of this video, I promise you, you will either be booking a flight or you will be lying awake tonight wishing you could. But before we dive in, let me tell you something that most travel videos will not tell you. Thailand is not just beautiful, it is deeply, profoundly weird in the best possible way. It is a country where a 1,000-year-old spiritual tradition exists right next to a neon-lit night market selling fried scorpions. It is a place where monks in saffron robes scroll through smartphones while sitting in temples that were built before Europe had running water. Thailand does not try to make sense. It just exists in this gorgeous, contradictory way, and that is exactly what makes it magic. So let us start where most people start. Bangkok. Now I know what you are thinking. Everyone talks about Bangkok. But here's the thing. Most people experience maybe 5% of what Bangkok actually is. They see the Grand Palace, they ride a tuk-tuk, they visit Khao San Road, and they think they have done it. They have not even scratched the surface. Bangkok is a city of layers, literally. The modern city was built on top of an older city, which was built on top of an even older network of canals and waterways. They used to call Bangkok the Venice of the East, and if you know where to look, you can still see why. There are entire neighborhoods that are only accessible by boat. Communities that have lived along these canals for generations, floating markets where grandmothers paddle wooden boats piled high with tropical fruit, grilled meats, and handmade sweets wrapped in banana leaves. One of my favorite things to do in Bangkok is to wake up before dawn and head to one of the smaller temples that tourists overlook. There is something about watching monks begin their morning alms round as the first light hits the golden spires. The city is quiet in a way that feels almost impossible if you've experienced Bangkok during the day. The air is still cool, the incense is burning. And for just a few minutes, you understand why millions of people over thousands of years have found peace in these rituals. But then the city wakes up. And Bangkok Awake is an assault on every single one of your senses in the most exhilarating way possible. The streets fill with vendors grilling sauté over charcoal. The smell of lemongrass and galangal hits you from every direction. Motorbikes weave between buses. Someone is blasting Thai pop music from a speaker the size of a refrigerator. A cat is sleeping on a pile of durian. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, you will find a tiny plastic stool, a wobbly table, and a bowl of boat noodles that will genuinely change your understanding of what soup can be. Let me talk about Thai food for a moment because it deserves its own chapter. Thai cuisine is arguably the most sophisticated street food culture on the planet. I am not exaggerating. The balance of flavors that Thai cooks achieve, often working out of a cart with a single burner and a wok, is something that takes chefs in other countries years of formal training to even approach. There are 4 fundamental taste pillars in Thai cooking: sweet, sour, salty, and spicy. Every great Thai dish hits all 4, but in different proportions. A green curry leans into the heat but balances it with coconut sweetness and a squeeze of lime. A papaya salad explodes with sour lime and fish sauce funk, but finishes with the crunch of peanuts and the slow burn of bird eye chili. Pad Thai, which most people outside Thailand think of as a simple noodle dish, is actually an incredibly intricate combination of tamarind, palm sugar, dried shrimp, and tofu, all working together in this delicate harmony. And the thing is, the best versions of these dishes are almost never found in restaurants. They are found on the street. They are found at the stall that has been run by the same family for 40 years, where the recipe has been passed down and refined through generations until it is perfect. In Bangkok, there is a street vendor named Jay Fei who earned a Michelin star cooking over a charcoal fire while wearing ski goggles to protect her eyes from the smoke. That tells you everything you need to know about Thai food culture. Excellence does not require marble countertops. It requires obsession, tradition, and really good ingredients. Now let us leave Bangkok for a moment and head north, because northern Thailand is an entirely different world. Chiang Mai sits in a valley surrounded by misty mountains. If Bangkok is the loud, extroverted friend who drags you to a party, Chiang Mai is the thoughtful one who takes you hiking at sunrise and then sits with you over coffee for 3 hours talking about life. The old city of Chiang Mai is surrounded by a moat and ancient walls. Inside you will find over 300 temples. 300. Some of them are enormous complexes with towering golden chedis. Others are tiny, tucked into residential streets, easy to walk right past if you are not paying attention. But each one has a story. Each one was built by someone who believed deeply in something, and that belief is still alive in the walls and the carvings and the faded murals. One of the most incredible experiences in Chiang Mai is visiting Doi Suthep, the temple that sits on a mountain overlooking the entire city. You climb 309 steps up a staircase flanked by serpent sculptures. When you reach the top, you are greeted by a shimmering golden pagoda and a view that stretches to the horizon. On a clear day, you can see the patchwork of rice fields and jungle that blankets the surrounding countryside. Monks live up there full-time. Imagine that as your daily view. But Chiang Mai is not just about temples. It has become one of the creative capitals of Southeast Asia. Artists, writers, musicians, and digital nomads have flocked here because the cost of living is low, the internet is fast, the coffee is world-class, and the quality of life is extraordinary. You can rent a beautiful apartment for a fraction of what you would pay in any Western city, eat incredible food 3 times a day, and still have money left over to take a cooking class, learn Thai boxing, or hire a guide to take you trekking through the highlands where hill tribe communities have maintained their traditional ways of life for centuries. Speaking of the highlands, let me take you further north. Up near the border with Myanmar and Laos, there is a region that most tourists never visit. The mountains here are wrapped in fog more often than not. The roads twist through bamboo forests and terraced rice paddies that cascade down hillsides like green staircases built by giants. Small villages dot the landscape, home to Karen, Hamong, Aka, and Lisu communities, each with their own language, their own textiles, their own ceremonies, and their own relationship with the land. Visiting these communities, when done respectfully and through ethical tourism operators, is one of the most meaningful travel experiences you can have anywhere. You sit with families around a fire, you eat food that was harvested that morning, you learn how they weave the intricate patterns that tell the stories of their people, and you are reminded that the world is much bigger and much more diverse than the internet sometimes makes it seem. Now let us shift directions entirely. Let us talk about the islands. Thailand has over 1,000 islands scattered across 2 coastlines, the Andaman Sea to the west and the Gulf of Thailand to the east, and the variety is staggering. You have probably seen photos of Maya Bay on Koh Phi Phi, those towering limestone cliffs rising straight out of turquoise water. It was made famous by that Leonardo DiCaprio movie, and for good reason. It looks like someone took every tropical fantasy you have ever had and condensed it into one single cove. The Thai government actually closed Maya Bay for several years to allow the marine ecosystem to recover from over-tourism, and when it reopened with new visitor limits, the coral had started to come back. Baby sharks were swimming in the shallows again. It is a powerful reminder that these places are not just backdrops for our photos. They are living systems that need our respect. But Maya Bay is just the beginning. Koh Lipe, way down near the Malaysian border, is a tiny island with some of the clearest water in the country. You can see straight to the bottom in 15 meters of depth. The snorkeling here is almost absurdly good. Schools of tropical fish in every color you can imagine, sea turtles gliding past, coral gardens that look like underwater cities. Then there is Koh Lanta, which has a completely different energy. It is larger, more laid back, with long stretches of beach that are surprisingly uncrowded even in peak season. The old town on the eastern side is built on stilts over the water and has a fascinating multicultural history, with Chinese, Malay, and Thai communities all blending together. Over on the Gulf side, you have Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, and Koh Tao. Samui is the most developed, with luxury resorts and international restaurants. Phangan is famous for its full moon party, which is basically a massive beach rave that attracts thousands of people every month. And Koh Tao is one of the best and most affordable places in the world to get scuba certified. The dive sites around this island are phenomenal. Whale sharks pass through these waters, giant groupers lurk in the deeper spots, and the visibility on a good day is like looking through glass. But my personal favorite island, and this is going to sound strange, is one that barely anyone talks about. Koh Yao Noi. It sits right in the middle of Phang Nga Bay, surrounded by those impossible karst formations that jut out of the sea like the teeth of some ancient creature. The island itself is quiet. Muslim fishing communities, rubber plantations, rice paddies, and a handful of small guest houses. You can rent a kayak and paddle through mangrove forests. You can cycle around the entire island in a couple of hours. And at sunset, when the light turns everything amber and the limestone pillars cast long shadows across the water, you will understand something about beauty that words cannot quite capture. Let me bring us back to the mainland for a moment, because there is an entire region of Thailand that gets criminally overlooked. The northeast. Isean. Isan is where Thailand meets Laos, both geographically and culturally. The food here is distinct from what you find in Bangkok or the south. Sticky rice is the staple, eaten with your hands, rolled into little balls, and dipped into fiery chili paste called Ju. Sum tum, the papaya salad I mentioned earlier, actually originates here. And the ASEAN version is significantly more intense than what you find in tourist areas. More chili, more funk from the fermented fish sauce, more raw garlic. It is not for the faint of heart, but it is absolutely glorious. The landscape of Isan is marked by vast plateaus and dramatic sandstone formations. Pha Thiem National Park has cliffs overlooking the Mekong River with prehistoric rock paintings that are thousands of years old. These early inhabitants depicted giant catfish, human figures, and geometric patterns that archaeologists are still trying to fully understand. And then there is the Khmer heritage. Many people do not realize that parts of Thailand were once part of the Khmer Empire, the same civilization that built Angkor Wat in Cambodia. The ruins at Phi Mai and Phanom Rung are stunning examples of Khmer architecture, with elaborately carved sandstone temples, ornate lintels depicting scenes from Hindu mythology, and a sense of scale that rivals anything you will find across the border. Phanom Rung in particular sits on top of an extinct volcano, and during certain times of the year, the sun aligns perfectly with the 15 doorways of the main sanctuary, casting a beam of light straight through the entire structure. The ancient engineers who designed that were not just builders. They were astronomers. Now I want to talk about something that does not get enough attention in travel videos. The people. Thailand is called the Land of Smiles, and while that phrase gets thrown around as a marketing slogan, there is real truth behind it. Thai culture places enormous value on kindness, hospitality, and what they call kreng jai, which roughly translates to a deep consideration for others and a desire not to impose. It shapes every interaction. The way someone greets you with a Y, pressing their palms together and bowing slightly. The way a stranger will go out of their way to help you find directions even if they do not speak your language. The way a host will always make sure you are fed before they eat. I have traveled to many countries, and I can honestly say that the warmth I have experienced in Thailand is something special. It is not performative, it is not transactional, it is just how people are, and it transforms the entire travel experience because you do not feel like a tourist extracting value from a destination. You feel like a guest being welcomed into someone's home. Let me tell you about one of the most spiritually profound experiences Thailand offers. The meditation retreats. Thailand has a deep tradition of Vipassana meditation, and there are monasteries throughout the country that welcome visitors for stays ranging from a few days to several months. You wake up at 4 in the morning, You sit in silence. You eat 2 simple vegetarian meals before noon and nothing else for the rest of the day. You walk slowly through forest paths practicing mindful movement. There is no phone, no music, no conversation, just you and your own mind. It sounds brutal, and honestly the first day or two usually are. But something happens around day 3 or 4. The mental noise starts to settle. The constant chatter that most of us live with every day begins to quiet down. And in that quiet, you start to notice things. The feeling of air entering your lungs, the sound of insects in the trees, the way thoughts arise and dissolve like clouds. People come out of these retreats fundamentally changed, not in a dramatic way, but in a subtle and lasting one. They are a little calmer, a little more present, a little more okay with being alive. Now let us talk about something completely different to shift the energy. Thai festivals. Songkran, the Thai New Year, happens every April, and it is the most fun I have ever had with a bucket of water. The entire country turns into a massive water fight. People line the streets armed with water guns, hoses, buckets, and anything else that can hold liquid. Pickup trucks drive slowly through town with barrels of ice water in the back while passengers douse everyone in sight. Strangers soak each other and then laugh together. It goes on for 3 days. 3 days of absolute joyful chaos. The origin of Songkran is actually quite beautiful. Traditionally, people gently poured water over the hands of elders as a sign of respect and to wash away the old year. They would also bathe Buddha statues in fragrant water. That tradition still exists alongside the modern water warfare, and there is something wonderful about watching a grandmother carefully pour scented water over a golden Buddha, while behind her 2 teenagers are absolutely destroying each other with super soakers. Then there is Loi Krathong, the Festival of Lights, which happens in November on the full moon. People gather along rivers, lakes, and canals and release small floating offerings made from banana leaves, flowers, candles, and incense. The idea is to let go of grudges, anger, and negativity, sending them away on the water. Watching thousands of tiny lights drift downstream under a full moon is one of the most ethereal sights I have ever witnessed. In Chiang Mai, they also release sky lanterns, and the night sky fills with hundreds of glowing paper balloons rising silently into the darkness. It looks like the stars are falling upward. I want to address something important before we wrap up. The question of responsible tourism. Thailand receives millions of visitors every year, and that volume of tourism creates real challenges. Coral reefs suffer from careless snorkelers. Elephant camps that offer rides often have disturbing practices behind the scenes. Over-tourism can strain local resources and drive up prices for residents. If you are planning to visit, please do your research. Choose ethical elephant sanctuaries where the animals are rescued and allowed to roam freely rather than being forced to perform or carry riders. Use reef-safe sunscreen. Respect local customs, particularly when visiting temples. Cover your shoulders and knees. Remove your shoes. Speak softly. These are sacred spaces. Support local businesses. Eat at street stalls and family restaurants instead of international chains. Buy crafts directly from artisans. Use local guides. Your money goes so much further when it stays in the community rather than flowing to a corporate headquarters somewhere else. Thailand gives so much to its visitors, the least we can do is give something back. Imagine standing on a wooden deck as the morning mist peels away from the surface of an emerald sea to reveal thousands of limestone pillars rising like the jagged teeth of a sleeping dragon. This is not a scene from a high-budget fantasy film, but a typical morning in northern Vietnam. Most people come here expecting a simple vacation, but they leave with their entire perspective on the world shifted. Today we are embarking on a massive journey through the wonders of Vietnam, from the neon-drenched streets of the south to the misty mountain peaks of the far north. This is a land of contradictions where an ancient pagoda might sit right next to a gleaming skyscraper and where the roar of 10 million motorbikes is balanced by the silence of a rice paddy at sunset. We are going to explore why this corner of Southeast Asia has become the ultimate bucket list destination for every type of traveler. We will go deep into the hidden caves of the Central Coast, navigate the chaotic charm of the Mekong Delta, and taste some of the most complex flavors on the planet. By the time we are finished, you will understand why Vietnam is not just a place you visit, but a place that stays inside your soul forever. Our story begins in the north, specifically in the capital city of Hanoi. If the heart of Vietnam has a pulse, you will feel it the moment you step into the old quarter. This is a labyrinth of 36 streets where each alleyway was historically dedicated to a specific trade. You might turn a corner and find yourself in a world of gleaming silver, then walk another 50 meters and enter a street filled entirely with bamboo ladders or colorful silk. The energy here is electric. There is a specific rhythm to the chaos that seems impossible to navigate at first. Motorbikes swarm like schools of fish, and the air is thick with the scent of charcoal grilled pork and aromatic herbs. One of the most iconic experiences here is sitting on a tiny plastic stool on a busy sidewalk slurping down a bowl of bun cha. This is the dish made famous when Anthony Bourdain and Barack Obama shared a meal in a humble local shop. It consists of grilled pork patties swimming in a tangy broth served with cold rice noodles and a mountain of fresh herbs. It is simple, perfect, and captures the essence of Hanoian life. But Hanoi is more than just street food and traffic. It is a city of layers. You have the French colonial architecture with its yellow walls and green shutters standing in contrast to the ancient Chinese influence seen in the Temple of Literature. This temple, founded in 1070, was the first university in the country and remains a sanctuary of peace amidst the city madness. Moving through the grounds, you see the stone turtles carrying the names of scholars who passed the rigorous royal exams centuries ago. It serves as a reminder that education and intellectual pursuit have been the backbone of Vietnamese culture for a millennium. Just a short walk away, you find the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum where the nation's founding father rests. The atmosphere here is somber and respectful, showing the deep reverence the people still hold for the man who led them toward independence. As the sun begins to set, the action moves toward Hoan Kiem Lake. This is the spiritual heart of the city. According to legend, an emperor was given a magical sword by a golden turtle to drive out invaders, and he later returned the sword to the lake. Every evening, locals gather here to walk, exercise, and practice Tai Chi. It is a beautiful display of community and a rare moment of quiet in the bustling capital. Leaving the city behind, we head toward the coast to witness one of the natural wonders of the world, Ha Long Bay. When you see it in person, you realize that photos do not do it justice. There are nearly 2,000 limestone karsts and isles rising out of the Gulf of Tonkin. The best way to experience this is on an overnight cruise. As you sail deeper into the bay, the sounds of the modern world disappear, replaced by the gentle lapping of water against the hull. You can explore hidden caves filled with stalactites that look like frozen waterfalls, or kayak through hidden lagoons, accessible only through low tunnels in the rock. There is a sense of mystery here, as if you are exploring a prehistoric world. In recent years, travelers looking for a quieter experience have started heading to neighboring Lan Ha Bay or Bai Tu Long Bay. These areas offer the same stunning scenery but without the large crowds. You can visit floating fishing villages where families have lived on the water for generations, their homes bobbing on pontoons, and their children paddling to school in small boats. It is a humbling reminder of the many different ways people have adapted to the unique geography of this land. If you head inland from the coast, you reach the province of Ninh Binh, often called Ha Long Bay, on land. This area replaces the sea with endless blankets of green rice paddies but keeps the dramatic limestone mountains. The best way to see it is by taking a small rowboat down the Ngo Dong River in Tam Kok. The twist here is that the local rowers often use their feet to propel the oars with incredible precision. As you drift through the water, you pass directly through 3 massive caves carved into the mountainside. The silence is broken only by the rhythmic splash of the oars and the occasional call of a bird. Nearby, the Mua caves offer a different perspective. After climbing 500 stone steps, you reach a viewpoint that looks out over the entire valley. From up here, you can see the river winding through the fields like a silver ribbon. It is a strenuous climb, especially in the heat, but the reward is one of the most iconic views in Southeast Asia. Continuing our journey north, we move toward the rugged mountains of the Hajiang province. This is perhaps the most visually stunning part of the entire country. The Hajiang Loop is a legendary motorbike route that takes you through the Dongvan Karst Plateau, a UNESCO global geopark. This is a landscape of jagged black rock and vertical drops that go on for miles. The road winds along the edges of deep canyons, with the Ma Pi Ling Pass serving as the crown jewel of the journey. Looking down from the pass, you see the turquoise No Quay River snaking through the bottom of the gorge, looking like a tiny thread from such a great height. This region is home to several ethnic minority groups, including the Hmong and Dao people. You will see women in vibrantly embroidered traditional dresses working in the steep cornfields and children playing by the side of the road. On Sundays, the local markets come alive with color and noise as people from surrounding villages gather to trade livestock, textiles, and stories. It is a place where time feels like it has slowed down and the connection to the land is visible in every aspect of life. Not far from Hajiang lies Sapa, a former French hill station nestled in the Huanglian Sun mountain range. Sapa is famous for its terraced rice fields, which look like giant green staircases carved into the mountainside. When the hills are shrouded in fog, the scenery takes on a mystical, ethereal quality. Hiking through the valleys, guests can visit villages like Kat Kat or Ta Phin to learn about the traditional weaving and dyeing techniques of the local tribes. For those seeking a physical challenge, there is Fansipan, the highest peak in Indochina. While a modern cable car can take you to the summit in minutes, the multi-day trek to the top is a rite of passage for many, many hikers. From the peak, you are literally above the clouds, looking out over a sea of white mist with jagged peaks poking through like islands. As we move toward the center of the country, we encounter a different side of Vietnam heritage. Hue, the former imperial capital, sits on the banks of the Perfume River. This city was the seat of the Nguyen dynasty for over 100 years, and its history is preserved in the massive citadel. Walking through the gates of the Forbidden Purple City, you can imagine the emperors and their courtiers moving through these ornate halls. Much of the complex was damaged during the wars, but extensive restoration work is bringing the intricate wood carvings and bright red lacquer back to life. Just outside the city are the royal tombs of past emperors. Each tomb was designed to reflect the personality of the ruler. The Tomb of Khai Din is a blend of Vietnamese and European styles with walls covered in intricate glass and ceramic mosaics. In contrast, the Tomb of Tu Duc is a sprawling garden complex with a lake and pavilions designed for poetry and contemplation. Hue is also the culinary heart of the country. Because it was the imperial capital, the food here was elevated to an art form. You can enjoy a royal banquet with dozens of small, beautifully presented dishes, or try the spicy bun bo hue, a beef noodle soup that many locals prefer over the more famous pho. A few hours south of Hue lies Hoi An, arguably the most charming town in Vietnam. During the 16th and 17th centuries, Hoi An was a major international trading port attracting merchants from Japan, China, and Europe. This blend of cultures is reflected in the architecture of the ancient town, which has been remarkably well preserved. The iconic Japanese covered bridge is a symbol of the town with its weathered pink wood and protective statues. At night, the town transforms into a fairy tale scene as thousands of colorful silk lanterns are lit up. The streets are closed to motorized traffic, allowing you to wander past yellow-fronted shops and ancient tea houses in peace. Hoi An is also the tailoring capital of the world. You can walk into a shop in the morning, get measured for a custom suit or dress, and have a perfectly fitted garment by the following afternoon. But the real magic of Hoi An is found in its connection to the river. Taking a small boat out at sunset as the lanterns begin to glow is an experience that feels like stepping back in time. Near Hoi An, we find the ruins of My Son Sanctuary, once the religious and political capital of the Champa Kingdom. Built between the 4th and 14th centuries, these red brick towers were dedicated to the Hindu god Shiva. The architecture is unique because the bricks were joined together without the use of visible mortar. Walking through the ruins, you can see the intricate carvings of deities and floral patterns that have survived for centuries, despite the encroachment of the jungle and the scars of war. It is a hauntingly beautiful place that tells the story of an empire that once dominated central Vietnam. For those looking for adventure and natural wonders on a massive scale, the province of Quang Binh is home to Phong Nha Ke Bang National Park. This area contains the oldest karst mountains in Asia and a network of hundreds of cave systems, including Son Doong, the largest cave in the world. Son Doong is so big that it has its own internal weather system, clouds, and even a jungle inside. While access to Son Doong is limited and expensive, there are many other incredible caves to explore. Paradise Cave is a cathedral of stone stretching for 31 kilometers underground. The stalactites and stalagmites here are illuminated with tasteful lighting, revealing structures that look like alien landscapes. Another highlight is the Hang Toi, or Dark Cave, where visitors can zipline over a turquoise river, swim through a narrow passage, and take a mud bath in the pitch-black depths of the earth. It is an adrenaline-fueled way to experience the geological power of this region. Traveling further south, we reach the coastal city of Da Nang. Often seen as a midpoint for travelers, Da Nang has developed into a destination in its own right. It is a modern dynamic city with wide boulevards and a long stretch of sandy beach. The Dragon Bridge is a modern marvel that actually breathes fire and water on weekend nights. Just outside the city, the Marble Mountains are a cluster of 5 limestone hills named after the 5 elements. These hills are filled with caves converted into Buddhist sanctuaries and pagodas. Climbing to the top provides a panoramic view of the coastline and the growing skyline of the city. Da Nang is also the gateway to the Bana Hills, where the famous Golden Bridge is located. 2 massive stone hands appear to lift a golden walkway out of the mountain mist. While the park itself has a theme park atmosphere, the bridge has become a global icon of modern Vietnamese engineering and design. Heading into the Central Highlands, we arrive in Da Lat, known as the City of Eternal Spring. Because of its high altitude, the climate here is cool and misty, a stark contrast to the heat of the lowlands. The French built villas here to escape the summer swelter, and much of that colonial charm remains. Da Lat is a land of waterfalls, pine forests, and flower gardens. It is also the center of Vietnam's coffee production. You can visit plantations where the beans are grown, processed, and roasted on site. Trying a cup of thick, dark Vietnamese coffee with sweetened condensed milk while looking out over a valley of greenhouses is a quintessential Da Lot experience. For the more adventurous, the area is a hub for canyoning where you can rappel down waterfalls and slide into natural pools. The city is also home to the Crazy House, an organic architectural marvel that looks like something out of a Salvador Dali painting, with winding tunnels shaped like tree roots and rooms themed after different animals. Finally, we reach the southern powerhouse of Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon. If Hanoi is the traditional soul of Vietnam, Saigon is its high-energy engine. This is a city of 10 million people and seemingly twice as many motorbikes. The skyscraper of Landmark 81 towers over the city as a symbol of Vietnam's rapid economic growth, but down at street level, the traditional way of life continues. You can visit the War Remnants Museum for a sobering look at the country's turbulent 20th century history, or see the Notre Dame Cathedral and Central Post Office for a glimpse of the city's French past. The energy here is infectious. There are hidden rooftop bars offering views of the glittering skyline and secret underground cafes tucked away in old apartment buildings. At night, the Ben Thanh market area becomes a hub of street food and commerce. Saigon is a city that never sleeps, and its constant motion is a testament to the resilience and optimism of the Vietnamese people. From Saigon, it is a short trip to the Cu Chi tunnels, an immense network of underground passages used during the war. Walking through these narrow tunnels gives you a profound appreciation for the ingenuity and endurance required to survive in such conditions. You can see the booby traps, the living quarters, and even the underground kitchens that were used by the soldiers. It is a powerful historical site that provides a deeper understanding of the conflicts that shaped modern Vietnam. Beyond the city, the landscape changes again as we enter the Mekong Delta, known as the Rice Bowl of Vietnam. This is a world of water where the mighty Mekong River splits into a labyrinth of branches and canals. Life here revolves around the river. One of the most famous sights is the floating markets like the one at Kai Rang. Hundreds of boats gather in the early morning laden with fruits, vegetables, and flowers. To advertise what they are selling, vendors hang their produce from tall bamboo poles so buyers can see from a distance. Navigating these waterways in a small sampan is a peaceful way to see the lush orchards and traditional brick kilns that line the banks. The Delta is a place of incredible fertility where every inch of land is used to grow something, and the hospitality of the locals is legendary. For those craving white sand beaches and turquoise water, the southern islands of Vietnam offer a tropical escape. Phu Quoc, located in the Gulf of Thailand, is the country's largest island. Whilst it has seen rapid development in recent years, there are still secluded beaches like Sao Beach with its powdery sand and leaning palm trees. The island is also famous for its high-quality pepper and fish sauce, which is considered the best in the country. You can visit the night market in Duong Dong to feast on fresh seafood grilled to order. Further offshore, the Con Dao Islands offer a more rugged and untouched experience. Once a penal colony during the French and American periods, the islands are now a protected national park with some of the best diving and snorkeling in Vietnam. The history here is heavy, but the natural beauty is undeniable, with sea turtles nesting on the beaches and crystal clear waters teeming with coral reefs. Do you want to see the most unreal places on Earth? Watch this video right here. From breathtaking landscapes and hidden gems, to places that honestly don't even look real, this journey will completely blow your mind. These are some of the most beautiful, unique, and unforgettable destinations you'll ever see. And every location gets more incredible than the last. See you there.